Have you ever loved something so much that when it goes away or when it lets you down, it breaks your heart? Um, we're going to talk about a movie called Eight Men Out today. It's a film about baseball, betrayal, and the gut punch realization that even your heroes might sell you out for 10 grand and a suitcase full of cash. This isn't a necessarily a feel good sports flick where the underdogs win the pennant. This is the true story of how America's pastime got sucker punched by greed and why over a century later we're still dealing with the fallout. So let's talk about Eight Men Out. Let me give you a synopsis of the movie. Eight Men Out is John Sayles' dramatization of the 1919 Black Sox scandal, where eight members of the Chicago White Sox were accused of throwing the World Series in exchange for bribes from gamblers. At the heart of it all, pitcher Eddie Cicotte, a soft spoken veteran who gets screwed out of a promised bonus by a cheap cigar chomping owner, and Buck Weaver, a guy who plays his heart out even while his teammates are selling the game from underneath him. He doesn't give into um, uh, he doesn't give in to the bribes, but he knows about it, and that apparently makes him just as guilty. It's not a whodunit. We know what happened. We know who did it. What the film does is ask why, and then sits uncomfortably in the gray area where good men make terrible choices and nobody gets out clean. So uh, let's jump into performances first. I usually like to start with performances, not always, but usually. David Strathairn plays the pitcher Eddie Cicotte, and he's quiet. He's heartbreaking and devastatingly human. You feel every inch of this guy's despair, of his disappointment. He has played his heart out all season long, and when it comes to a point where if he wins one more game, a roster bonus or a bonus to his salary kicks in, and so the owner pulls him out, doesn't let him get that, and so and then when it comes to the talks about his contract, they say, "I'm sorry, you didn't win enough games," even though the owner was the one that pulled him out, and so you feel his betrayal toward the owner, and you feel why he did what he did because he's not getting paid what he should be getting paid, and his owner is screwing him out of money. So he's a guy who got passed over, pushed aside, finally broke. Uh, there's John Cusack who plays Buck Weaver. He's maybe the moral compass of the movie, or at least the guy that's trying hardest to be. John Cusack plays him with real earnestness. He doesn't take the money. Uh, he never takes the money. Doesn't get into the gambling. Doesn't throw the World Series. Doesn't tank any of the games. He also doesn't speak up. He knows what's going on behind him. That silence is what haunts him because he feels if he should have said something, or if he did say something, then maybe it wouldn't be so bad because he is suspended and kicked out of baseball for knowing what was going on, even though he didn't take a cent. The supporting cast brings heat too. Michael Rooker and Charlie Sheen play players who lean into the fix with way too much enthusiasm. They're cocky, they're reckless. They represent the more unapologetic side of the scandal. Even if they're not as fleshed out as the two other characters I've mentioned, they add layers to the team's collapse. Um, so let's talk about some of the themes in this movie. What Eight Men Out does so well, what makes it different from most other sports dramas is that it refuses to give you simple answers. Nobody's twirling their mustaches here. No one's blameless either. Sales shows us that a system that chews up its players and spits out cynicism. These guys were set up to fail. By owners who treated them like dirt, by a league that turned a blind eye, by a culture whose integrity cost more than it paid. This isn't a story about villains, although you could paint the owners as villains in this movie, even though they're just trying to run their team and they're doing some nasty things. But it's a story about pressure, though. About being broke, angry, fed up, choosing wrong even when you know it's wrong, because you're trying to make a statement. Uh, I mean, one thing you could go on strike, right? That was an option. There was a players' strike before, didn't seem to do anything, and so throwing the World Series and throwing the owners under the bus made more sense to some of these players. Um, One of the great choices the movie makes is it shows the impact that this has, not on necessarily the players or the fans, but on children, on on boys that love the game of baseball, that are looking at these guys as their heroes. There's several scenes where John Cusack's character interacts with the same two kids, the same two boys, uh, and he says that he's their hero, and Joe Jackson is their hero, and all these other pieces. And it makes sense when you think about it from a kid's perspective. When you were a kid and you looked up at these stars of Hollywood or stars of football or baseball or basketball, they were larger than life. They were heroes in little boys' eyes, and so it leans into that hard. And so when it comes out that they threw the World Series, they intentionally lost a game that these boys loved. It doesn't make sense to them. It throws them with disappointment. Why would you do such a thing? It's a really powerful statement, a really powerful theme that you're seeing it through the eyes of innocent children who love the game of baseball. Um, their heartbreak is our heartbreak. It's that awful moment when you realize your heroes are human, maybe not even good ones. Um, the scene at the end where John Cusack is trying to smile at the young fans who no longer see him the same way. It's the gut punch. That's the legacy. It's not just a loss of a series or a loss of a game. It's loss of trust in your fans, loss of trust and the innocence that you get from the simple game of baseball. That's not so simple anymore. When when you get all of the money and all of the guilt and all of the blame that passes around in major sports. It's not as simple as just a game anymore. It's a business. Eight Man Out isn't flashy. You don't have the huge highlights necessarily. You have a few of them here and there, but it's not about necessarily the game of baseball, even though you see a lot of it. It's about the business side of it. It's not going to end with a winning home run and freeze frame high fives. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's complicated. It should be. This is a story about how a game, a beautiful, innocent thing, got corrupted. How that corruption still echoes even now with betting scandals and debates. Pete Rose just passed away. He hasn't been into the Hall of Fame because of the one gambling instance that he did. And now, what's so ironic about the whole thing is that sports gambling is legalized across the United States at this point. So you can do that, but not players. Players can't do it, and players still get in trouble, get fined, get suspended for participating in this. It all goes back to what happened 106 years ago, the 1919 Black Sox. This movie's a warning and a lament, and somehow a love letter to baseball anyway. So yeah, Eight Men Out is a lot of things. It's not perfect. It's not easy to follow, but it matters. It's powerful. It's haunting. It respects your intelligence. It tells you a very hard truth, but it never stops caring about the game underneath it. The grade I'm going to give it um, is an A, solid A, because it tells such an important story in such a great way that maybe a lot of other films wouldn't have done. That tells it through the eyes of children. Sometimes the best sports movies don't make you cheer; they make you think. So, what do you think? Have you seen Eight Men Out? Do you know about the 1919 Black Sox scandal? Is it a forgotten classic or just too heavy to hang with the sports movies greats? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified making when I'm making these movies when these making these films reviews about the movies. Until then, keep watching movies. Let me know what you would like me to review. Thanks, everyone.